CMake and Visual Studio projects. Which one's easier? Which one's better? Which one should you use to build your C and C++ code? Let's answer that by comparing them properly. So I mean, let's build some actual code. I've got two projects, and I'm going to build the same code using CMake and Visual Studio, and I'm going to try to make them both do roughly the same thing within reason. To be clear, when it comes to Visual Studio, I'm talking about Visual Studio projects and not using their CMake build tool, because I think most people use projects, and I'm not even sure how many people know that CMake exists. Either way, let's get started. All right, first project is a simple one pulled from the CMake tutorial designed to show how to build a multi-source file project into a working program. So there are, well, two source files and a header file, and then this very simple, very straightforward CMake script. So you've got a project called Hello World. You've got two source files, main.cpp, hello.cpp, and then we add them to an executable called Hello World. So if you do that, I could get VS Code to automatically build it, but let's do this manually. So down to the terminal. In the build directory, type CMake :. I'm just going to go configure it. You can see it's actually using the Visual C++ compiler for it. There we go. Now we can build it with CMake :build. And let's do a parallel build just to make it as fast as possible. Okay, there we are. And the program should be in the debug directory. There you go. Print Hello World. Done. Let's do the same thing with Visual Studio. We'll create a new project, and because I've already got the source code, I'm going to use an empty project. Otherwise, I might use, if it was a new project, I might use a console app or one of the Windows desktop apps. But for now, empty project. Next, we'll give it a name. I would like to put it here, and I'll call it Project 1. Okay, and now I need to go and copy my source files in. Actually, let's just go ahead and add it. So right-click on the project, and because the source files already exist, add existing item. And we'll head over to the directory that has the actual source code. I'll just add all of these files in. Visual Studio knows what to do with them. And then I should be able to build them by clicking Build Solution or Control-Shift-B. Here you go, it's built. I can test it by running the debugger, or could have just pushed F5 for to be quick. There you go, Hello World. So we've built the first project on both CMake and Visual Studio. Nice and easy, actually a bit too easy, so let's move on to something a bit more complicated. So this project is a little bit more complicated. Okay, one source file, but it has to link to a library called raylib, and it uses raylib to be able to open up a window and print the Hello World message there. So it looks like this. Hello World, it's great to be here. So that's great, and this is the CMake script. So it's more complicated because we need to do a few more things to deal with the library. So we want C++ 2011. Most interesting bit is here. So this bit says that we want raylib version 4.5.0. If that's available on my machine, great, it'll use it. If not, CMake will go and fetch the source code for raylib from the internet and build it for me, which is great. So no messing around finding packages on the internet. It'll fetch what it needs and build it. Can we do the same thing with Visual Studio? And the answer is sort of. So Visual Studio comes with a package manager called NuGet, and there's a big repository of packages. We should be able to find raylib there. It's not quite the same as fetching the source code and building it, but really, who cares, right? What we want is the built library. We don't really care about the source code, unless we want to build a custom version, in which case that'd be a totally different project. So let's be a little bit more original with the project name. Use raylib. There we go, create it. Once again, I need to import the source code. So right click, add existing item, and we go get the source code for this project here. And now we need to go to Tools, NuGet Package Manager. So we go to the package manager there, click on Browse, and we're going to search for Raylib. There you go, Raylib is here. Now, we can't get version 4.5.0, but I think the code should work just fine with version 5. And we select our one and only project, use Raylib, and install Raylib into the project. Yes, I do want you to install Raylib into use Raylib. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, with that done, we should be able to just push F5 and have it build and run the project. Yeah, and there we go. Done. So we didn't quite get Visual Studio to do the same thing as CMake, but close enough. And I have to say, Visual Studio is very easy to use. Using a GUI to create projects is very beginner friendly because you don't have to write any scripting. So you can focus entirely on learning how to write C and C++ code. However, there are some downsides to using Visual Studio projects. The first one being that you are limiting yourself to Visual Studio, which is great if you only want to write software for Windows and only want to use Visual Studio, but it's not so great if you want your code to run on multiple platforms like Mac and Linux and others. And yes, I am aware that you can use Visual Studio to target other platforms, but it's nowhere near as easy as writing software for Windows. And to be honest, why would you limit yourself like that? Right? With CMake, you can use any code editor or IDE you want and any C++ compiler you want. In fact, in this video, I've been using CMake together with Visual Studio's C++ compiler. So the same compiler has been building the code in both cases. Right, secondly, Visual Studio projects just aren't as flexible as a build script. That's probably why Visual Studio also comes with CMake. And we experienced this in a minor way when we couldn't get the exact version of the Raylib library that we wanted, which actually didn't matter in this case, but in other cases, the limitations get frustrating when you can't get what you want. You can't get it to do what you want. So I'd say Visual Studio projects are a great way to get started with C and C++, but I recommend learning a build system like CMake, at least if you're serious about writing C and C++ software. And CMake has become the de facto standard build system for C and C++. It's that popular. And writing CMake scripts is actually relatively easy once you know how, and is way more flexible. So to help you with that, I wrote the CMake tutorial, which will take you from zero CMake knowledge to basically everything you need to build large-scale projects using CMake. It's the book or course that I wish existed back when I was getting started. It's available over at cmaketutorial.com, so head over to cmaketutorial.com and get it there. Or maybe you want to see more build system comparisons first, in which case, next video should be over here. That's it for now. I'll see you next time.